Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to NPTEL's course on communication skills. We are now on a very interesting module. This is on interview skills. This is module number 8 and lecture number 3. Already you have the opportunity to listen to 2 lectures on interview skills. This is a series of lectures on interview skills and this module is completely focused on interview skills. In the previews that I gave and the lectures that we had previously, I already talked about the misconceptions with regard to interview. I just made it very clear that mere good resume, mere marks, mere looks are not the ones which are going to guarantee success in interview, and then I was just saying that you have to go for something plus, such as the soft skills, communication skills and basically the interview skills. Then I started discussing with you as what is an interview, what are the basic components, what is the purpose and what are they actually doing. While doing that, I also tried to psych you up, and then I talked about how you can overcome your fear in terms of attending an interview and what kind of attitude, the right attitude, the positive frame of mind that you should have while attending the interview. And before doing that, I said that you should go for 3 P's if you really want to have peace of mind before, after, during the interview process. And the 3 P's comprise of plan, prepare and practice. So to start with, in the first 2 lectures we talked about planning, and in the second one exactly I started discussing about preparation. And in preparation I also told you what kind of questions that you should prepare for and what is it that the company is looking for. Now the company is basically looking for your sound knowledge in the subject. Now apart from that thorough knowledge, which I spent lot of time in the previous lecture, the company is also looking for leadership or initiative, your ability to show either overtly the leadership qualities or at least potential for leadership qualities, and then your ability to take initiative is something that they are actually looking for. So what kind of questions that they will be having in mind? They would like to know whether you are a self-starter or you a self-starter, someone who accomplishes things on your own without expecting somebody to goad you to do things, without expecting that somebody will come with a carrot or the stick either to reward or punish and then you get motivated, without having some external agent. Do you have that in you intrinsically? This is what they are looking for, and then this is done by assessing you for the current position. Do you have enough leadership qualities manifested in you for the current position? Now this will be also seen in comparison with what you have done in the past. So in the past you managed a post very well. Suppose you are to be promoted or absorbed to the current position which is higher, and since it is higher in terms of position, it's higher in terms of responsibility. So do you have those qualities, skills as a leader in you? This is something they want to check. So your potential to assume higher levels of responsibility is what they are actually looking for. So what kind of questions will be asked in this context? Questions you might be asked are, what kinds of extracurricular activities have you been involved in? Now today on the one hand there is so much emphasis on extracurricular activities. Like in foreign countries, extracurricular activities are reflected on the grade card itself. it becomes part of the entire curriculum, and so much emphasis is given on that, and all the time they look for a fully rounded personality. In an Indian context, most of the times, at least till you reach the higher education, if you get good marks, if you are the topper in the class, and if you are literally the bookworm, much to the ignorance, negligence of sports and extracurricular activity, then also you are the pride of the school, you are the pride of the family and society and so on. But once you reach a level, when you reach that higher education, it's high time that you reconsider your earlier career options and then reorient yourself towards extracurricular activities. Now, why it is so important? Because they feel that a kind of monotypical pattern in the mind, in which one way of thinking is set and one way of leadership qualities have been achieved, that's fine, that's purely academical. But then when you go to do some extracurricular activities, let's say there is a cricket game or any other game related to sports, while playing the game, suddenly there is quarrel between two teams, there is a conflict. Now, you may be just on the field, you are not even the team captain, but you just run to the spot and then try to resolve the conflict, and then you make people listen to you, and then you pacify the whole situation. Instead of making it violent and taking it even to bloodshed and all that, you just interfered and you happen to be the peacemaker. What did you do? You are not even the team captain, you are not the referee, but you did something. This is, on the one hand, is very important for the people who are going to employ you, because these are occasions, extracurricular activities and sports are the ones that brings the other aspect of you, which will be much more useful for the employers in a practical sense. So, your academical credentials are fine as far as it's filling your resume and taking you like a passport to the room in which interview is conducted, literally. But beyond that, they are also looking for your other talents, other potentials, which can be revealed only through extracurricular activities. So, in case you are the one who is neglecting it, it's high time you think seriously about it. And then, when you say extracurricular activities, you have to be serious about it, and you should have involved yourself seriously also. That means, just for the sake of being somewhere in some club and doing nothing, so that also is not a good thing as far as the credentials will go. So, you should be there and you should be taking a lead. If you are not taking a lead, even if you are given any designated position, such as you happen to be the secretary, let us say, so take your extracurricular activities seriously. I would suggest that you should be taking initiative to lead some extracurricular activities. If there is a cultural program, you can just suggest your name to be the coordinator, to be the convener of that program, and you should have proved your credentials even before suggesting your name in coordinating some minor activities, such as coordinating a local group discussion program, coordinating some quiz event. So, people will observe that you are able to show your coordination qualities, and then they should be able to confer on you convenership to some big events. So, extracurricular activities in terms of organizing, even if you are not able to get that leadership post such as the convener or coordinator, even if you are given something like secretary, in which you are asked to collect only the money and then account it and then plan for the budget, even that shows something about your financial management. So, anything that you do, and then if you are given a certificate, preserve it, mention it, whether it is sports or extracurricular, it's going to give an entirely different dimension to your CV. Then we'll talk more about this as in when the situation comes. Right now, you remember this much: don't underestimate your extracurricular activities, take them seriously. Then they may also be concerned about your accomplishments. So, they can also ask you to describe 2 or 3 accomplishments of which you are particularly proud. Now, again this is in relation to extracurricular activities. Maybe if you can say that there was an international conference in which my director gave the entire responsibility to me, and then there was a professor also, but he was so busy. So, the entire responsibility was on me, including receiving people from the airport, taking them to the accommodation, and then taking care of their financial thing, taking care of calling for papers, sending the selection results, etc., etc. So, if you say that I organized it successfully, and then I was part of this organization team, and then if you have some kind of certificate from the professor, so you can include it there. So, that shows that okay, you did something on your own, and then without even expecting some rewards, you did it because you enjoyed doing it. So, that is one thing. You can also show that you are really proud of doing certain things like organizing some cultural events. So, in big institutions, some of the cultural events have huge budgets, sometimes 15 lakhs, and then even sponsors give another 10 lakhs. So, about 25 lakhs budget. Now, with that budget, how did you manage the whole thing? And then you should be able to tell that until that time you have hardly earned, okay, or hardly managed about 25,000 rupees, but in that event you could manage 25 lakhs, and without anybody pinpointing that you mismanaged the money, you did everything efficiently and successfully, and you can say that I am really proud of it. So, think of something that you do it efficiently well and which you can be proud of at a later stage, and which can be pointed out in the CV, which can be asked further in the interview. Apart from just leadership skills, they are also looking for your motivation and goals. So, how do they identify your motivation and goals? That is just through the research and development that you are doing. What kind of research you are doing, and how are you developing, and are you having some realistic career goals? So, if they ask you something about your project, something about your future plans, so you should be able to discuss those goals, plans, and they should somehow or other, whether remotely or closely, should be associated with some goals of the organization as much as possible. Okay. So, that makes them realize that you have a plan and they have a vision. So, your plan, your goal is also, or it can be synchronized with their vision. So, that again makes you most suitable and very much desirable for the company's profile. So, think about that, and then in relation to this you may be asked questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, you should be very realistic. You cannot say things like I will be the President of United States in 5 years, I will be the Prime Minister of the country. Now, if that is the situation, what kind of goals you have and how are you moving towards that goal? Now, if you are going for the lowest position, it will be feasible if you can say in 5 years from then. So, if you are joining as assistant manager, if 5 years from then you will be the deputy manager, you can say I can be the deputy manager, or at least you can say I will be the manager. It is more or less feasible and realistic. But if you say that in 5 years you will become the CEO of the company, then you should be able to justify how realistic the goals could be, which will be very difficult and sometimes embarrassing if they put very probing questions. So, be realistic about your goals and then keep a plan. What will you be in 5 years? What will you be in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years? How would you like to spend your life in retirement? What would you be when you are going to retire? What would you be when you are at the deathbed? How would people address you after you die? Okay, what will be your position? So, visualize that much and move your career plans accordingly. Then, another question that can be asked in relation to this is, what made you choose your major? Now, if you are a computer science and engineering student, you cannot just say that no, I heard that there are good job prospects in this branch, that's why I chose it. They are actually looking for something like, I am really interested in developing some software related to this, I am interested in artificial intelligence. So, something related to that, that makes it very clear that you chose the branch because you are interested in developing into an area, a specialized area at a later stage. Now, this, if you say that I chose this because I will get a good job, now that is going to be a negative thing. They just want to see that apart from that financial perks that you may be getting, are there other considerations, are there other things which are intrinsically related to your inner goals and aspirations. So, be careful about saying something about your major and try to see how best you can relate to the goals and your major. The next thing that they are looking for is obviously your communication skills. They are not looking for this directly, but they are looking for this through so many ways. The way you speak, the way you have dressed, the way you are carrying yourself, the way you sit, the way you are shaking your hands. So, as they say that first 5 minutes even decide and determine your success. So, communication skills overall, what are they looking for in communication skills? First, it is evaluated by your current presentation skills. How are you presenting yourself at that point of time, verbally and non-verbally? Okay. Even when you are silent, how are you showing that response? Are you reflective, are you meditative, or are you just indifferent or apathetic? Even that silence can mean so much. So, you are evaluated according to how you are presenting at that moment, basically, in addition to your past track record where you have communicated effectively. Now, how do you show this? You can show that I was the one chosen for presentation in that international forum in which I had to go and present about my company and get that proposal through. And then I was the one who gave the proposal, I suggested, and it was unanimously approved, and then we got some crores to the company because of that. Now, that shows you are good in presentation, you are good in writing a draft, you are good in giving an idea to your proposal. Not only that, you are able to see through that the proposal is communicated clearly, efficiently, succinctly, and then it also got you a very favorable response. So, that they are going to take into consideration. So, you should be able to show how in the past you are able to communicate effectively. Now, communication skills overall include active listening. I would urge you to go back to the module that I discussed on listening skills, and I particularly focused on active listening, and I also gave you tips on overall becoming an effective listener. Now, active listening, I said so many things that it is against passive listening, it is just involving lot of mental energy, it is focusing, concentrating on the given subject at hand, thinking that you will be able to use it for future recording, interpreting, and not just hearing but also listening. So, active listening is something that they are looking for. So, when they ask you something, if you keep asking them again and again, excuse me sir, could you please repeat it, I am sorry I am not able to hear it properly, or you do not even say this, but then they ask you something and then you give wrong answers because you did not listen at all. And then they get a feeling that, oh, this guy never listens to whatever we are asking, and then he is just saying something, he is a poor listener. Active listening, responding to the questions correctly, exactly, and satisfactorily, just because you paid enough attention to what they are asking you. And sometimes they will put you under pressure by asking questions from different corners literally. There may be 6, 7, 8 members in the panel, and all the people attacking you deliberately just to check how good you are in terms of listening under pressure. So, if you could respond one by one or sometimes you can even club 2-3 questions and tell them, so I would like to answer both of your questions this way, and just to answering you, then somebody may interfere. Keep listening to the person while answering to this question and then respond to the person. So if you could do this, they will very much appreciate that you have great potential as a communicator, just because you are showing good results in terms of listening. Then I said communication is not just about any one particular skill like speaking, it's also about listening, it's also about writing. And in terms of business communication, they are more interested in your writing skills. Can you write a good report? So if you have a report, project report done already, submitted, for which you got some marks, so you keep that handy. Or if your project report won some prize, you keep that certificate handy. So show your writing skills. Can you write memo? Can you even send a good email? Again, I would urge you to get back to our module on netiquette, where there is so much discussion on email, how to write an email, send an email, get a favorable response using a good email. Now, these are the skills that they are going to check under writing skills. And then under spoken and soft and communication skills, your ability to give presentations. These days, especially it's PowerPoint presentations. Are you good at basically handling the computer? Are you good at handling even the mouse? Are you getting nervous while touching the mouse? Are you comfortable if they give you a remote and then tell you to operate that from a distance? Or are you so dependent on the monitor? And apart from that, how have you arranged your slides? Are they packed with information but utilizing proper font size, the color that is appreciable to the decorum of the forum? And then overall, how are you handling the presentation of those slides? Are you using that as a kind of added, appended part, as a complementary visual to your verbal component, or are you using that as a substitute or the one that you are just reading out from? That will also reveal your poor presentation skills. So presentation skills focus on it, which they are looking for it verbally, and they want to ensure whether you have done some PowerPoint presentations before in your previous organizations. So you can just show some record. And then your ability to explain complex ideas. Now let us say you use the term, new term, a term like ecocide. Now they can tell you, could you please explain this? Or even something like artificial intelligence. They just tell you, could you please explain this? Now without resorting to jargons, without going to complicated word sentence structure, will you be able to say that in very simple words, but at the same time show that you are scientifically and objectively describing what they asked you to do? So your ability to describe, define complex ideas in simple manner, that also calls for your communication skills. And then your ability to resolve conflict. Here again you have to use lot of your verbal and non-verbal communication to resolve conflict. Here you can go back to the extracurricular activity or some situation where either in that extracurricular activity or in the office where there is a conflict between two colleagues or two different disciplines. So you went and then you took the initiative to resolve the conflict. You can even explain how you did that. But overall, when they talk about communication skills, they are also even looking for your ability to resolve this conflict. Now, no more questions. What are other questions that can be asked in relationship to your knowledge, communication skills, leadership qualities, and apart from that, what are the general questions, overall questions? Now, the questions that I am going to tell, each of these ones have been oft repeated questions. Take any book on interview skills, you will get these questions in different forms, okay, or sometimes the same question is just repeated, and you will be surprised to know that at least 60%, 70% of the questions that I am just going to put you now, make you exposed to, are the ones they are going to ask you again. So, why not you reflect on these questions, think about these questions, and then be ready with the answers. Some of the answers I am going to tell you, and some of the answers I am going to guide as how you can think over the answers. Now, tell me about yourself. Now, most of the times the students are taken aback, the candidates are taken aback when they ask them, tell me about yourself. They start mumbling, my name, as you know, is this one, and I'm from this place, and yeah, and I did this, and my marks are like this, and yeah, that's about me. So, you see the poor impression that you will be creating. Now, this is one lifetime chance that you have got, and to express yourself succinctly in terms of communication skills. Apart from telling your name, background and all that, you should be able to relate your main objectives, goals. What is it that you are motivated? What is it that you are interested in? About yourself, let's say you are a chemical engineer. As a chemical engineer, what did you do? Okay. Or what is it that you are thinking of doing? So, I am so and so, I got this from here, I got this many marks, but apart from that, very briefly in a nutshell telling your CV, apart from that, you also add a personality dimension that tells much about you. So, as I was telling in the previous one, think of describing you in a single word, in a single sentence, in just phrase. So, overall, if you say that I should be considered as an optimist person because I try to look for opportunities even in tough situations. So, you leave it there, and then they can ask you to give an example. So, always keep some backup. So, then you can give an example and show how you emerged victorious in a very odd situation just using your positive thinking. Why are you applying for this job? Now, the negative response to this question, why are you applying for this job, is saying that because your company is giving me a better package. Obviously, you are out. You are applying for this job because it's suggesting a bright career opportunity compared to some other job which you don't want to take it up. Now, you may have some obvious considerations in terms of finance. You may think that this company is giving you better monetary gains compared to the other one, but this is not the time to spell it out. This is the time to reflect as why you will be seriously concerned about it, and to think why is it they are giving you more money in this job compared to the other job, which obviously means they are looking for higher responsibility, they are looking for more outputs. Now, what is it that is in you that is capable of giving that better output than in the previous company? So, that you try to highlight. So, I like this job because it's challenging and it's going to challenge some of my capabilities in this area which I have not explored it before, because I did not get an opportunity to explore it before. Fine. So, don't say you are applying for the money, say that you are applying for the challenge that the job is giving you in terms of exploring your personality and relating to the company's goal. What do you know about this job or company? The first thing I said about preparing, planning for interview is that I said know your company. I spent so much time on telling how you can research on the company. By the time you go there, you should have done a research project, minor research project on the job and the company, and you should have all the details at your fingertips. So, when they ask, so you should be ready to tell everything. you know the CV of all the persons, you know the origin of the company, you know the product line, you know the current problem, you know what they are planning to launch after 10 years, you even know where you are going to fit and why they really showing some interest in selecting you. So, anything that they ask about the company, be prepared to answer, and generally you can tell something about the company's profile, the product, their future vision, and then the vision of the chairman or CEO. If you are able to say that, they will be very happy. And then the next and the obvious question that can be asked, what are your major strengths? Followed by that, what is your greatest weakness? Now, nowadays, company which goes to the campus, which we call as campus interviews, they also give a CV profile. They also give a standard format in which they ask the candidate to write some basic information, and apart from writing that basic information, they ask the candidate to write 5 of the topmost strengths and write 5 of the limitations or weaknesses. They ask for 5. Some companies ask for 3, or some companies just ask for the topmost one and ask for at least one weakness which is in the candidate's opinion the greatest weakness. Now, as a teacher, when students come and ask me, sir, tell me about my strength, tell me about my weakness, that is the most embarrassing moment for me. Now, you should realize that that is the most embarrassing moment for anybody, any senior person to whom you approach and ask for your weakness and your strengths. Okay, the teacher obviously must have noted some of your strengths and weaknesses, but the teacher can even help you in sorting it out. But this is something that you should have reflected on. Remember the second point I was telling, that I said know thyself, know yourself. So, you should reflect on this, you should have thought about it, you should have identified your strengths and weaknesses. Why is it that it is very important? Because a leader, a visionary leader, an entrepreneur, or any person who is worthy of leading the group, country, nation, is somebody who knows his strengths thoroughly, not only the strengths but also the weakness. And this person not only knows the weakness but also tries to do something to overcome this weakness time and again. Now, when somebody tells you, you sometimes feel that, oh, I may be having this strength but I am not sure about it, and somebody is thinking that as a weakness, rather I am thinking that as a merit. So, you do not agree fully, or you have your own opinion on strengths and weaknesses. They want that exact opinion on your strengths and your weaknesses, and they just want to see whether you have actually thought of it before coming to the interview or not. So, strengths, ask yourself, as I said, how would you define yourself, or ask your friends how do they see you. Ask them to define you in some 5-10 words. So, if they say that you are determined, you are known for your willpower, you are an incorrigible optimist, so these are your strengths. I am determined, okay, I finish the tasks in time, I am known for finishing the task advance in time, I am a punctual person. How I always go there 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before. There was never an occasion in my life where I have gone for a meeting late. Okay. These are strengths. So, then there can be strength like something which is unique. Now, when I am saying this, these are strengths, these are something that everybody can say. For instance, I am a very sincere and hardworking person. Yeah, that could be the strength of anybody. Anybody has to be sincere and hardworking to reach that level of interview. It's the degree, the intensity, the time you spend in terms of sincerity and hard work that matters, and that differs to individuals. But they just want to see, when you see that this is my major strength, how is that differing from others? I remember one strength written by a student that was very interesting, and then that actually got through the job interview for the student. He had written as his strength, and I don't recommend that you should write it unless you are like that, that he is a good troubleshooter. Okay. And yes, and then he has detailed it how, especially anything that is lying useless or anything that is thought to be written off or anything that is lying idle and unused, he knows how to bring that back to its original function and he can sort it out. So, then they asked, so prove it. So, then he said, I am from this computer science engineering department, and then there was a costly equipment costing crores of rupees that was lying in our lab, because specialized people were not to deal with that. They could not be called from foreign countries, and then even then something was not there and certain cable something was disconnected and it was not in working condition. So, what did you do? I asked my teacher who is in charge of that, the instructor in charge, the professor, to give me that as the project, okay, restoring that machine to proper function. So, he accepted and he gave that as the project, and he also told me if I fail in that he will give me 0. I took it, and not only I took it, I worked on it day and night, and then at the end of it I actually got that machine to its original shape and function, and everybody was surprised. I was even prized by my director. I was given an appreciation letter by the director. I was given even a kind of merit certificate in terms of that. Needless to say that I got A+ in the project. Now, look at this thing. He took initiative. He showed a knack, ability, technical know-how to how to deal with that. He identified that something is wrong, and he also understood his capabilities, that he is the one who can go and set that something that is wrong, he can set it right. And then he took the risk. When the teacher said, I am going to give you 0 if you fail in it, he took the risk, and his risk was amply rewarded when he proved himself. So, when they ask about this strength, be sure of giving some strengths, but also be sure of giving a strength that also shows that you are different from the rest of the people, instead of simply saying I am sincere, I am hardworking, I am an optimist. Okay. The same thing goes with weakness. So, I will just talk about weakness in detail just in the coming slide. Apart from knowing your strengths, the company is much more interested in knowing your weaknesses also. Not that they want to use it and exploit you, but that they know very well that how better you would suit in the organization, given that you have certain weaknesses and limitations. Now, here again you should think about your weaknesses, and overall you should try to overcome one weakness after the other, and then you should try to become a professional. Who is a professional? A professional also has the weakness, but he has put that weakness into control. For instance, if you say your weakness is that you are not an early riser, you wake up late in the morning. Now, how late is the question? If you say that sometimes I get up at 11 o'clock, so sometimes 11, fine. What about the normal thing? Normally I get up at 1 o'clock, but sometimes I get up at 11 also. Now, if the office starts at 9 o'clock, now they just want to know whether you can reach the office at 8:50 at least. And if you say it's not possible, it's not in my bio clock, I cannot get up, it's difficult to change my habit, they have to reconsider giving you the job. Okay. But on the other hand, if you say it's my limitation that generally I don't get up early in the morning, but I am also making amendments. So, I am also realizing that this is going to mar my professional career. I am taking active steps to overcome this problem. What are you doing? So you may say that initially I used to get up at 1 o'clock or so, and then slowly I made it 11. What about the recent time? So recently I get up at 10 o'clock, but then occasionally I am compelling myself to get up at 8, 7:30. Sometimes I am getting up at 8:59. Now you are giving them hopes. You are also giving them the view that you know your limitation, but also you are taking that seriously and doing something about it, and then you are able to do something about it. If you can get up one day at 7:30, at least there is a hope that you can get up on the remaining days and you can make it to the office in time, and sooner or later you will completely overcome this habit. Now this, although it's a weakness, is also telling something about your personality, that you are aware of your limitations, that you are doing something to overcome those limitations, and you are determined and you have a strong willpower to overcome those limitations. This is highly appreciable, although it is a limitation. Think about another thing, like I tend to postpone things. So postponement is sometimes like a stock limitation. All of us have this problem. Now what they are concerned about, postponement is delaying doing certain things in time. Just delay things just like that. You have various reasons. You may say that unless and until I get the mood, I will not be able to start this activity. Okay. You may have your own reasons, but for some reason or other you keep postponing. Now they just want to know whether you are a chronic postponer or you are an occasional postponer. What is the difference between a chronic postponer and an occasional one? Chronic postponer is like by birth he is a postponer. So he always kept doing things in a very delayed manner. Now this, if you say that you can never overcome, but instead of that, if you can say, I know that this is my limitation, so what do? So now I am reading a lot of books on doing things in time. I underwent a course on time management, and what are the lessons that you have learned? I learned that instead of waiting for the right moment, right mood, I should start doing something. So why weren't you doing this? I wasn't doing this because I have the tendency to be a perfectionist. Now this is something that you can point out in your merit, that you are a perfectionist and you do things with meticulousness to detail and you do everything perfectly. Nobody can point out a single mistake on whatever you have done. This is your merit. Now this can also be your limitation when you say that I am a perfectionist. What's the problem? It's because that I am a perfectionist, I tend to postpone doing things. If I don't get that perfect moment, if I don't get that right mood, if I don't get all the information available, even excess information related to what I should do, I don't start the job. So you being a perfectionist is quoted as a merit and highly appreciable merit, but at the same time it has its own limitations. This is another trick to give something that is a meritorious one, but also has some limitation which can be shown as a weakness also. But again it should be genuine. It just because that I am telling you, you should not immediately put this in your CV. You should think of your own problems. Now again, coming back to postponement, if the person says, for example, I would not have completed this project in time for which I won an award had I not thought of applying this time management technique, which said that I should do something every day, and then after some time it will gain momentum, and after some time it will absorb me. Once it has gained momentum, I realized it after I did something for 1 week. I realized that I am just getting the heat of the things, and then I was absorbed in it, then I was completely immersed, and then I finished it in the next couple of days. But had I not started something every day, I would not have completed that project. I would have still waited for that most perfect moment. So this is how I am making amendments to my limitations. Now how about some limitations, like some habits. What kind of habits? Habits like smoking, drinking. What kind of habits are they, and what do they expect in terms of these habits? Now, once again, as I said, a professional is somebody who can control her limitations and habits, and a professional knows that certain limitations, certain habits should not interfere in the routine, in the day-to-day activities of his job. Now, smoking is not bad in a professional situation. There are so many situations where you will find that the company itself is allowing you to keep a cigar, smoke and do the work. Company has no objection. And there are certain jobs which demand that you drink coffee, you have tea, you do whatever you eat, but keep working. There is no problem. And there are certain jobs in which drinking is part of the organizational setup itself. The boss himself arranges for a beer party. The boss himself, when there is a kind of target achievement or some profit, calls everybody and gives a very good wine party, and everybody is expected to drink. And every time when they want to discuss over a serious issue, drinks, smoke, cigarette and other things are just offered, so there is no issue. But there are certain organizations, let us say a very highly disciplined school, which has, let us say, another religious backup to support it, or a very highly reputed institution where teachers and instructors are taken as role models, and then they have strict norms for or against smoking, drinking inside the campus. Now, inside the campus, it is not allowed for anybody, the students as well as the teachers. Now, is it right on the part of a teacher to just smoke before the student, or offer a cigarette to the student and saying that nothing happens, so just smoke, no problem, let me see who will come and charge fine? Now, this is something the organization is looking for in terms of work ethic. Now, your limitation will be related to your work ethic, will be related to your mental frame of mind, will related to your ability to badly influence others. Now, the office norms clearly spells out that you cannot do this, but you do it. Now, you are resisting, you are violating the norm, you are showing that you don't care about it. Not only that, you are influencing somebody to do that, and you are becoming a very evil and corrupt influence. Now, this the organization doesn't want if that's not there in the norm. I remember a place where I worked before, where we were all asked to sit with the candidates and then asked to take their response, candid response, and then report to the director. Why I am saying this? You should not think that I can just bluff, I can say some lies and then get through. Suppose in the organization that I am referring to, there was one write-up that the candidates were supposed to give, and there was a question on what is your attitude about smoking? Do you agree that it should not be done in the campus, at least during the office hours? So, they write something, but apart from what they have written, we, some of the senior faculty, were just talking to them, interacting with them in an informal manner, and even we were saying bad things. We were even asked to say bad things about the institute, and then just get their actual thinking. So, when they were about to finalize a candidate, we were asked, so this candidate has written that he doesn't like this smoking, at least during office hours. Do you think that he means it? Now, if there is somebody who says, no, he doesn't mean it, even before the interview he was looking for a matchbox because he was desperate to smoke, then when I asked him, you wrote something there. He said, no, that's just for writing, just for getting through in the interview I wrote, but I don't mean it. I have to smoke. Every half an hour I have to smoke. I hope your interview will be over in 20 minutes. I don't know. If it goes beyond half an hour, I'll get nervous. So without smoke, I cannot live. Now, this becomes a serious consideration to reject the candidate. So think about these things. When you say something as your limitation, there are some limitations which are coming because of your habits. Whether they are good or bad is again relative depending on the organizational setup. But if those habits are bad to a particular organizational setup, lying or bluffing through and getting the job will not be a good thing, because sooner or later they'll find out. If you are caught smoking in the bathroom, or if you are caught smoking somewhere, so you'll be just fired off. Not only that, you are just fired off from a reputed institution, and that's a black mark in your career, and you'll be carrying it through all the time. And in the next interview, it will not be that easy to explain why you are fired off despite your talents and extraordinary potentials. And then they can always go back to the previous institution and ask the boss and just find out. So your person says that there was some problem with the company, that's why he resigned from the job. But was it true? There is always people to tell the fact, to tell that no, that wasn't true. He lied about certain things, particularly about smoking, and he was caught unawares and he was fired off immediately. In certain cases, he was suspended for some time, but then also he didn't rectify his behavior. He was caught frequently, he was given so many warnings, and once the manager was frustrated with giving warnings and warnings, he finally decided to fire him off from the job. So think about this. Habitual limitations you should put in check. You should ask yourself whether it matches with the organizational setup. If not, you either think seriously whether you can stop that habit, or tell them openly that you have this habit, and if they are agreeing to it, it's fine. If not, you have to think of an organizational setup that will have you there with your limitations. Conversely, if you are having limitations in relation to things like postponement, things like getting up late and all that, not being punctual, try to show that you are actually making some steps, some amendments to improve on this situation. That again helps, because even in the panel, although people are very experienced and sitting there, they are also human beings, and they are mature enough to understand that you are a very young and dynamic person. You are prone to have some limitations. You of course have the maturity to overcome. So that's what they are looking for. Limitations as such, mentioning, you need not be afraid of at all, but see whether you can defend them. As Richard Bach says in Illusions, he says that argue for your limitations, sure enough they are yours. So when you argue for the limitations, and sure enough they are yours, you are not discarding them, you are not even defending, but then you know very well that they are yours, and then you are making active steps to overcome those limitations and make those limitations emerge as your strengths also in due course. Then there are certain other questions which I already discussed, which again I would like to reinforce. What type of work do you like to do best? Here again be honest, what kind of work you like, just whatever you like you tell them. What are your interests outside of work? Now something like if you are an ornithologist, you are interested in going to sanctuaries, watching birds. You are interested in some other organization like saving wildlife, saving trees. You go for plantation during this weekend, or you are involved in blood donation. Now highlight all these ones. Something that is showing that you have a social service motive apart from getting money in the job. You are concerned about the environment, you are concerned about the ecosystem. So show these things. So that also shows that okay, they really have a fully grown up human being instead of a machine that has information and that has capabilities of functioning according to the organizational needs. Then what accomplishment gave you the greatest satisfaction? This can be extracurricular, this can be job oriented. In a professional situation, again job oriented, again you can highlight an achievement that nobody could do but you did it, or you are entrusted with something that was supposed to be tough but you performed it very well, ably. How does your education or experience relate to this job? So here again, the job is demanding some skills, the education do not support it, or you did something in your past and then changed track, did something, some kind of course so that it suits the job. So you should be able to justify why you changed the track or whether you are really interested in that. You can, mistakes can happen. You can say that you started with something but you changed the track just because you realized that you are not meant for that. Then you gave it up and then you came to this and you are now very sincerely involved in this. So that's also fine. Then where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Already I discussed about this. They just want to check your goals. They just want to see whether you are aware of these goals. Then what major problem have you had to deal with recently? You cannot say that I never had any problems. So wherever I go I am happy. No, there will be problems and you should be able to highlight one professional problem and how you overcame that problem. Often things happen when you least expect them. Okay, as Murphy's law states, if things can go wrong, it will, and especially it will go wrong when you are sure about everything that nothing will go wrong, and then something goes wrong, and something definitely will go wrong. So many times you must have observed this kind of situation, that you just assessed all possibilities and then made a foolproof kind of system, but something happened at the last minute and then everything went wrong, something which was not in your control. Okay, a party that was arranged outdoor and then you managed everything meticulously, everything was kept there. Suddenly there was a heavy downpour of rain. You didn't think of that thing because the rain was totally unexpected and it was not expected in that part of the year. It was not season, it was not monsoon time, but it came. Now that was totally unanticipated and the whole footstep was kept in open and they got drenched. Despite your meticulous plan, careful handling of things, it became a flop. Okay, you didn't have any kind of alternate arrangement once it rained, so it failed. So think of the problems and then do you handle conflict well? Now show a situation either extracurricular or in the regular career that you handled it well, efficiently. Have you ever had a conflict with the boss or professor? How did you resolve it? Again, saying that no, I am a very nice guy, I just say yes to the boss all the time, I never had conflict. Now, this is a very negative thing to tell. Yeah, yes, there was a conflict with my boss. When was it? The boss proposed an idea, I said it's going to fail or it has this limitation. The boss was angry at the time. How did you resolve it? I gave it some time. I asserted, I insisted on it, I provided more facts. 2 days later he called me and he was very thankful about it, and then the conflict was resolved and then he resorted to just getting back to what I told him. So there's never a situation where there is no conflict between boss and the worker. What are your goals in life? Now goals for career and goals in life, if it could be integrated, it is better. That's why they are asking for this. How do you plan to achieve those goals? So it's better first you think of goals and also you have some concrete plan towards achieving those goals. If I were to ask one of your professors to describe you, what would he or she say? This another important thing which many students ignore, because many students till they reach that final year, they think that they can just freak about and then they can bunk classes, they can do anything, they can annoy the professor, but when they have to give 2-3 names as referees and let's say 2 of them happen to be the professor's names, is there a professor or at least one professor who will say something good about this person? Honestly, professors are forgiving, so they will forgive your limitations, but despite that, will they be able to say some good thing about you? So ask yourself honestly, are you conducting yourself in such a manner that at least out of 500 professors, there is one professor who will say something positive, good about you, whose name you can give as a referee, who can be referred at a later stage. Think about that. And then, what were your favorite classes? Why? Now, your favorite classes will also tell so much about you. If you are an engineering person, if you have something in, let's say, a favorite subject as psychology, it also is highlighting that you are more interested in understanding the intricacies of human beings. Maybe you may be better equipped than the people who have just done courses only related to engineering and avoided, let's say, humanity subjects. So that also tells you, but also think about why you are attracted towards it. Another tricky question is why your GPA not higher, or why your marks is very low, or why are your marks inconsistent. One day, one time, one semester it's too high, another semester it's too low. What happened? Now, except health reasons, there is no way you can justify this, especially if you are inconsistent. So you have to, if you say that no, I was admitted in bed and I was treated for this, so I couldn't pay attention, I was absent for many days, fine, acceptable. But if you don't have any other justification, so you be honest about it. You can say that, sir, that time I was completely interested in robotics and I lost myself in that club and I didn't pay enough attention. I understood that I was making a mistake in the next semester and then I made amendments. You can see that that semester I was low, next semester I was having the highest one. So that's how I compensated. So you can prove that you get distracted sometimes, but also you have the capability to come back. So highlight that aspect. How has your education prepared for your career? This already I told you. Try to show that you are able to integrate education with career. If there is a gap, try to just compensate for the gap by giving honest and succinct answer. Are you willing to travel? How much? So there are people who don't want to take a job that involves traveling. There are people who don't want to move away from their home. So, and then there are people who enjoy traveling, who want to travel all the time, who cannot stay at home. What type are you? And then there are moderate people who will enjoy traveling. Most of us are like that, that occasionally, so once in a month, once in a while, once in the vacation, you enjoy traveling, so much of traveling, but not as a routine affair. So you just be frank about it. How much do you enjoy this? Accordingly, the post will determine whether you should be given that job or not. And then, for instance, even you can be very clear about what mode of transport suits you. For example, if you have fear for flying on flight, you better tell them. You can say that I cannot travel on flight, I get some allergy, I will vomit and then I cannot work properly. So they can just think of putting in a place where there is no need to travel on flight. Is money important to you? Another tricky question. The answer is yes or no. Money is important, of course, but that's not everything. That's not the only thing for which you have come for this job. So that you need to ascertain. Yes, of course, it's important to fulfill my basic needs, but that's not for the reason for which I have applied for this job. I have applied for this job because of the challenge, because of the career opportunities that it's providing, not just for the money part. So be careful about it. And then what kind of salary are you looking for? Another tricky question. Now you can say sky is the limit, but what kind of impression are you giving? Are you really suited for that kind of job, money that you are demanding that the job can give you? Suppose you are demanding something that the person at the exit level, that is at the retirement level, is getting, and you are just at the entry level and you are demanding so much. Can they really afford? And more than that, are you really equipped with such wonderful talents that you will be able to get that much money and you will give them 10 times more in terms of other workers? If you really have the potential, demand it. If not, be honest about yourself, and then it's better to say in certain cases where norms have been decided in terms of pay scale, it's better to say that I am happy with the pay scale that goes with my job position, I will be happy, and then since I have done this or that, if I can be given additional increments, I may be happier, but still I will be content with that pay scale. That is a good answer. And in case of package, just be careful. Don't overestimate yourself and demand so much. At the same time, don't underestimate yourself. Don't sell yourself at a low rate also. So, you should have correct assessment about yourself. You can do the homework before going there. That is why I said know your company, know yourself. Know how much the company can offer you, the maximum, and know how much you can push yourself to reach that maximum level. Negotiate at a point, reconcile your mind, be ready with the answer. Now, with this note, let me conclude this lecture. We will continue with more questions and answers in relation to preparing for the interview, and slowly I will take you to the interview room as such and the norm etiquette which are required to perform and succeed in a interview situation. So, till then, bye, and then we will meet in the next lecture. Thank you so much. Keep reflecting on these questions, be ready with the answers, and all the best till then.